Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Ijnamine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Ijnamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasatyadi Satharine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Brahmacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Shatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasati Gaur Bhaktavrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasati Gaur Bhaktavrinda Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Gopi Chanavallabha Jaya Giridwaradhari Jaya Giridwaradhari Gopi Chanavallabha Giridwaradhari Jaya Giridwaradhari Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Prachanaranchana Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Prachanaranchana Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Gaura Nitai, Jaya Gaura Nitai, Jaya Gaura Nitai, Jaya Jaya Gaura Nitai, 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 Jaya Nitai Sachi Sundara Nitai Sachi Sundara Nitai Sachi Sundara, Jaya Nitai Sachi Sundara, Jaya Nitai Sachi Sundara Nitai Sachi Sundara Nitai Sachi Sundara, Jai Jai Nitai Sachi Sundara, Jaya Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Jai Jaya Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Jai Jai Giri Govardhan, Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Jai Prabhupada, Jai Gurudev, 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 Jai Jai Gurudev, 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 Jai Jai Gurudev, Jai Ananda Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai, Prem se Goho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasati Gaura Bhaktarinda ki Jai. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, welcome everyone. Welcome Amit. Amridaradima Dechirituan Prabhu Prakash. Very nice to see you tonight here. Are you all well? Amit, how are you?
Yes, Prabhu, I am well. Thank you. I think
I had
a flu. It was a long time. It's gone.
You had the flu.
It's gone.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, it took a long time. I think there was a lot of it going around.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I had my auntie. She was 80 years old. Cousin auntie.
Yeah.
I think she passed away from some kind of virus.
Some kind of virus. There are only two viruses. There is a COVID and there's a flu.
Well, she got pneumonia. She had pneumonia in the
Yes,
end.
yes, you get said you can get pneumonia from the COVID and you get pneumonia from the flu.
Yeah, she was 80 years
Therefore, it
old.
is ever so important whoever comes live on a Saturday, you be completely clear and clean. You're not feeling any fluish and nothing. Otherwise, you spread it and then you don't know what's going to happen to devotees. So it's good if you had the flu and you didn't come on Saturday live in person, rather than coming on Zoom, of course. We don't transmit the flu or the COVID on Zoom. That is quite helpful. Okay, what are you progressing in your spiritual life, Amit?
Yeah, I think so, Prabhu. Yeah, I'm still doing my chanting. We are all progressing spiritually. We have to. I think it's all part of life. We learn.
How are you progressing? What's your progress? Tell us.
I think I think we go into the classes and understanding Krishna consciousness. It gives you a lot of understanding with how um, people are outside as well, and it helps
Okay.
you control your reactions and make sure when you go to sometimes when you go to work and you go to different places and you think, why are people doing that? And then I
Yep.
think the other day I realized this well, now I kind of realize that they're caught up in the material world, and it gives me an understanding, which and it made me realize, okay, I don't need to react to this. I understand why
That's
it's like
nice.
that.
That's nice. You have some realization. Very good. Thank you very much. Welcome, Amrita Radhe Madhachiri Tuan Prabhu. How are you?
Yes, Prabhu, we are fine. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
You're fine. What your spiritual progress?
Yeah, like I think we are progressing by the mercy of the
How?
spiritual master and the devotees.
How are you progressing?
Like, yeah, we are trying to follow the instructions of the spiritual master, like chanting, following the rules and regulations, reading Srimad Bhagavatam every day, hearing lectures. Amrita Radhe hears a lot of lectures every day. I'm not able to hear that much, but she hears regularly. She hears lectures, and
Wonderful.
and Srila Prabhupada's
Wonderful.
books we read
So
every day.
new realizations also like Amit, increasing hearing and chanting. Very good. Thank you. Prakash, how about you? How are you? Are you progressing, Prakash?
Yes, Prabhuji.
How are you progressing?
Prabhuji, every day reading Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gītā.
Woo-hoo-hoo.
Or every day reading on 12th chapter Bhagavad Gītā.
Yeah.
Arjun Vacha evam Satatyuktaya Tvam Bhakta Tvam Uparsate. I'm reading every day.
Isn't that wonderful? Isn't that wonderful? We got a very nice group who are very actively engaged in Krishna consciousness. Thank you all very much for that. So tonight, Prakash, do you have a verse we can talk about? What's your verse of Bhagavad Gita? We can discuss. Prakashji.
Prabhuji, in 12th chapter Bhakti Yoga.
Which verse?
Adrishta Sarvbhutanam Maitrikarna Evcha Nirmo Nirankara Samdukha Sukha Sami Santu Sattam Yogi Yet Atma Did Nisay Mai Pita Mana Buddhi Yomat Bhakta Same Priyaha.
Bhagavad Gita 12. Which verse is that?
This is Prabhuji 12th. Just
Anyone can help? What verse is that? 12? What? Which verse of the 12th chapter?
Prabhu, can you repeat that one? I will search in the database. Prakash Prabhu.
Okay.
Yes, Prabhuji. Adeshta sarvbhutanam maitri karna evcha nirmo nirankara sam dukha sukha sami santu sattam yogi yet atma dik nishay meri pita mana buddhi yom bhakta same priya.
Okay,
Which
I'll check.
which verse?
I'll check.
Anyone who is the quickest finds that verse. Amit, you also find. Twelve what?
This is Prabhuji 13 sloka, 13, 14.
12,
chapter.
13, 14. Here we go. 12, 13, 14. With a chapter called Devotional Service. That's very nice. Okay, let's share that screen. Here we are. Text.
Yes, yes, Prabhuji.
13, 14. Is that the text?
Yes, Prabhuji.
You want to read the Sanskrit?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Go ahead.
Listen.
With Om Namo Bhagavate, of course.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Adeshta sarvbhutanam maitri karna evcha nirmamo nirankara sam dukha sukha sami sattam yogi yet atma did nishay mai pita mana buddhi yomat bhakta same priya.
Oh, without looking at the translation. Yo mat bhakta same priya. Very dear, my devotee. Let's see. Read us a translation as well, please.
One who is not Prabhuji, my English is not good.
Okay, someone else can read. Amit, you can read?
Yes, Prabhu, I can read. Okay.
That's Sanskrit from Prakash. I mean, his English, he says his English is not so good, but his Sanskrit is excellent. so quick that you can, it's just like a chat, a military chat flying by. Sanskrit comes. Very good. Okay. Translation.
One who is not envious, but who is a kind friend to all living entities, who does not think himself as a proprietor, who is free from false ego and equal both in happiness and distress, who is always satisfied and engaged in devotional service with determination, and whose mind and intelligence are in agreement with me, is very, very dear to me.
Isn't that a beautiful verse? Oh my God, how beautiful. No surprise, it's coming in the chapter of devotional service. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Amit.
Coming again to the point of pure devotional service, the Lord is describing the transcendental qualifications of a pure devotee in these two verses. A pure devotee is never disturbed in any circumstances, nor is he envious, nor did a devotee become his enemy's enemy. He thinks that one is acting as his enemy due to his own past misdeeds. Thus, it's better to suffer than to protest. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated, Tatte Nukapam Su Samiksyayamano. Whenever a devotee is in distress or has fallen into difficulty, he thinks that it is the Lord's mercy upon him. He thinks, thanks to my past misdeeds, I should suffer far greater than I'm suffering now. So it is by the mercy of the Supreme Lord that I am not getting all the punishment I am due. I am just getting a little by the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, he is always calm, quiet, and And because his senses are controlled, he is determined
and patient.
and patient. I've lost the.
Top line. Therefore, he's always calm.
I jumped. Yeah, if you look really further down, it's exactly the same saying that he is always. I jumped a paragraph. Okay.
Okay.
Therefore, he is always calm, quiet, and patient, despite many distressful conditions. A devotee is always kind to everyone, even to his enemy. Nirmama means that the devotee does not attach much importance to the peace and trouble pertaining to the body because he knows perfectly well that he is not the material body. He does not identify with the body. Therefore, he is free from the conception of false ego and is equipoised both in happiness and distress. He is tolerant and he is satisfied with whatever comes by the grace of the Supreme Lord. He does not endeavor much to achieve something with great difficulty, therefore he is always joyful. He is completely perfect mystic because he is fixed in the instructions received from the spiritual master, and because his senses are controlled, he is determined. He is not swayed by false argument because no one can lead him from the fixed determination of devotional service. He is fully conscious that Krishna is the eternal Lord, so no one can disturb him. All his qualifications enable him to depend entirely on the Supreme Lord. Such a standard of devotional service is undoubtedly very rare, but a devotee becomes situated in that stage by following the regulative principle of devotional service. Furthermore, the Lord says that such a devotee is very dear to him, for the Lord is always pleased with all his activities in full Krishna consciousness.
Thank you very much, Amit. What a beautiful verse. Hare Krishna. Amaginatimirandasya Gyananshana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manopishtam Shtapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam. So, sometimes people who have no much understanding of Bhagavad Gītā, they think Bhagavad Gītā is all about karma yoga, or Bhagavad Gītā is about Ashtanga yoga. And so many ideas, because there are people, they're attracted by the yoga explanation, yoga verses in Bhagavad Gītā. And certainly Bhagavad Gītā, there are many yoga verses. And in fact, Lord Krishna is saying to Arjuna, by all means, always be a yogi. So as devotees, we also yogis. So no one should think yoga means pressing the nose here and there, head down, as Srila Prabhupada said so nicely, and having certain asanas, and that is yoga. And Ashtanga yoga, the eightfold mystic yoga path, or Hatha yoga, breathing exercise. That's what most people understand. They're reading a little bit about the Gita and they think, oh, it's about yoga. Well, it is about yoga, bhakti yoga. Because Krishna says in the last verse of the 6th chapter, the yoga chapter, he says, of all yogis, the one who worships me in devotion, he is the best of yogis. So he's establishing devotional service in the last verse of the 6th chapter of the yoga chapter. So some people that don't go further than the 6th chapter, then they think Bhagavad Gita is all about yoga. Yes, in a sense it is about yoga, but it's about the supreme yoga. If anybody asking us or asking you what is Bhagavad Gita about, of course, according to the person who's asking, we may give different answers. If someone is attached to yoga, we can say Bhagavad Gita is about yoga. But actually, Bhagavad Gita is about pure devotional service from A to Z. That's the essence of Bhagavad Gītā, pure devotional service, which is, of course, the highest standard. Highest standard. Devotional service, mixed devotional service, yes. We may find ourselves in a mixed devotional service category, that we practicing devotional service, but we still have some attachment to karma, to fruitification. We also want to enjoy the fruits we're producing in our labor. That is a karma mishra bhakta. So a mixed, mishra is mixed. Or we have some attachment to philosophical speculation and perhaps a bit of impersonal understanding as well, and we like to read, and then that is called Jnana Mishra Bhakta or Jnana Mishra Bhakti. So this mental speculations, these philosophical speculations is very dear to our heart. At the same time, we executing devotional service. So both things are there. It's a mixture. It's not pure, only devotional service. Devotional service plus mental and philosophical speculation, or devotional service plus trying to enjoy the fruit of our activities. So here, this is a verse where Krishna and Srila Prabhupada speaks about pure devotional service, no mixture. So we are not surprised at all that Krishna says, such a devotee is very dear to me. Because pure devotional service means fully fledged love of Krishna. We can take examples, many examples from this material world. If we love someone, but we're distracted in many ways, we give someone attention, but we're distracted. We see that even sometimes at the temple. Nice Kirtan is going on. Hare Krishna, and then devotees are distracted and they're looking at their phone and say, checking a message came in or something like that. Of course, there can be emergency, but the emergency is not every Saturday. So we can be distracted. So that is not pure devotional service. And in the temple, Kirtan means Shravanam Kirtanam, hearing and chanting. And if we are distracted and we're checking our mobile phone or this or that, and others, not just in our temple, anywhere, they cannot concentrate. They're bringing all the anxiety they have from the whole week. They're bringing that to the temple and they're bringing that into the Kirtan. They cannot just leave it all behind and fully concentrate on the holy name, closing their eyes. Some people are unable to close their eyes. I have seen that. Quite amazing. Close your eyes and chant. The only time some people, they close their eyes is at night when they sleep. Because closing eyes means looking inward. But people are not accustomed to looking inward. What does that mean? Looking inward, going to sleep. That's all. They never ever have looked inside themselves. Meditation. Krishna consciousness meditation. Sometimes we say japa meditation. When we chant Hare Krishna, we say japa meditation. It's meditation. If you have realized, you have looked at videos of Srila Prabhupada when he's chanting, either on his japa beats or when he leads Kirtan from the Vyasasan before class, what do we realize? What do we see? Most of the time, Srila Prabhupada has his eyes closed. He's looking inwardly. He is connecting with Krishna from within. He is closing the doors of the eyes because the ears are open. The sound is there, Hare Krishna, hearing, chanting. So the ear is engaged. But the eyes, if we don't close the eyes, then the eyes going everywhere and we are distracted. So some people, they have never ever looked inside themselves. If we look inside, what do we find? The question arises, who are we? Who are we? Looking inside, who are we? Most people don't know who they are. They think there's this body. They think there's this mind. But how can we be the mind if we can observe? We step a step back. We step back. And we're looking at our mind. A very, very useful exercise, which I can only recommend. Particularly when you lay down in the evening and want to go to sleep. So set a little bit of time where we're laying down before we fall asleep. Then we can just look at our mind. The body is inactive, is laying down, is not moving, is not doing this and that with the hands and walking in the legs. When the body is moving in so many things in the day, it's very difficult. But when we lay down and the body is not moving, but what is active? The mind is active. When we're laying down, the mind is very active. So that's a good time. Looking at our mind. What is the mind coming up? Observing, like a cinema. Like we're watching a film. So we're watching the film of the mind. Rituan, are you still at work?
No, Prabhu. Actually, this phone is running out of battery.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm changing to another phone. Yeah.
You are twice here. That's very good. So, the mind is always active. Always active. So, good time to look at the mind. What's he coming up with? So, how can we be the mind? How can we identify ourselves with the mind? While when we can actually observe the mind. The observer and the thing that is observed is always different, right? I'm looking at the television screen, at the mobile handset. So mobile handset is observed, and I, the observer, are different. I'm observing the mobile handset. So in the same way, we're observing the mind. So we are not the mind, because we can observe the mind, like we can look at our hands and legs and feet and hands, our body, we can look at that. So we are not that body. And we can look at our mind if we make a conscious endeavor. So we are not that mind either. So who are we? We are the observer. The eternal observer, like Krishna is also an observer. In the heart, Krishna is there as a super soul. We, the observer, that's us, the soul. We are observer. And all what is happening with the body and the mind, that's all directed by the three modes of material nature, almost automatically. So that is very important to look inwardly, in a meditative way. So Srila Prabhupada by Kirtan is most of the time he has closed his eyes. You never hardly see Srila Prabhupada doing Kirtan and he is just having his eyes opened. Even in front of the deities. Of course, that will help us. If we are in a temple or at home in our temple, if we cannot fix the mind, then at least looking at the deities or looking at a picture of Krishna. That will help to control the mind. Otherwise, the mind will go everywhere. But even in the temple, in front of the deities, the altar is open. Srila Prabhupada is conducting a kirtan. He's chanting, his eyes are closed. Inwardly looking. So here, such a standard of devotional service is undoubtedly very rare. Pure devotional service is very rare. We spoke last Saturday in the class, one of the items of Nectar of Devotion, pure devotional service is very rare. Yes, it is rare. And we had come across a statement of Srila Prabhupada said after, it can be only achieved by the mercy of a pure devotee. The mercy of a pure devotee. So, naturally, if someone is bound by the hands and by the feet, tight, and how can we free ourselves? It needs someone who is not bound, who is liberated, to untie us from the ropes which binding us. So the pure devotee is that liberated person. So by his mercy, we can achieve pure devotional service. Otherwise, it may take millions of lifetimes. So it is very rare. So how here, Srila Prabhupada, we're going backwards up from the purport. A devotee becomes situated in that stage by following the regulative principles of devotional service. So that's a starting point, because that's a question. Okay, devotional service seems to be miles away. I can't control my mind, I can hardly control my tongue, and so on. So how can I ever achieve pure devotional service? I have so many desires for enjoyment. How can I practice pure devotional service? So here, Srila Prabhupada explains, by following the regulative principles. That's the starting point. Following the principles. What are the principles? No meat, no fish, no egg. No intoxication, including tea and coffee. No illicit sex life outside of marriage. To be, what shall I say? To be not too strict. No gambling, including lottery and shares and this kind of thing. Actively trading shares, that's also a kind of gambling. So these are the four principles. We know that very well. So that's a starting point. If we don't follow these four principles strictly, then how can we progress to pure devotional service? It will take millions of lifetimes. So Krishna says here, such a devotee is very dear to him. Because Krishna is always pleased with the activities in full Krishna consciousness. So pure devotional service means active in full Krishna consciousness. So coming through the regulative principles is one way of achieving pure devotional service. Siddhi, that is often called perfection. Siddhi means perfection. And sometimes we read a devotee is trying to achieve perfection. What is that perfection? That perfection we hear in the Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gītā spoken about. That perfection is pure devotional service. That's a perfection of Krishna consciousness, and that is a perfection of the human form of life, to come to that kind of consciousness, Krishna consciousness. So by this way, which here is explained, following the regulative principles, that is a sadhana siddhi. A sadhana siddha. Such a devotee is called a sadhana siddha. He comes through the regulative principles and climbing up step by step to come to the platform of pure devotion. So that is not the only way. There are three ways. And there is a nitya siddha. Nitya siddha, they're eternally liberated souls. They're coming from the spiritual world for a particular mission, like Srila Prabhupada is such a nitya siddha. Coming from the spiritual world for a particular mission. And it's explained that such souls, they are Krishna conscious from the very beginning of their life. Not like ourselves, who have been engaged in so many sinful activities, and then by some good fortune we have been getting in touch with Krishna consciousness in our 20s perhaps, or any time. Better late than never, of course, but better earlier. We come in contact with Krishna consciousness, and then we practicing the regulative principles and chant Hare Krishna. And then, little by little, we get purified. There is some faith at the beginning, shraddha. And that faith brings us into the association of devotees. And then we engage in devotional service. Engagement. What is that engagement? Chanting Hare Krishna and learning how to follow these 4 regulations. That's engagement. And many other engagements. Some devotees are doing some deity worship, some are cooking for Krishna, and so on. So, and then a devotee comes to a clearing stage where the heart gets cleared. Anartha nivritti. So that is our way of practicing the regulative principles from a certain point in our life. We had that faith. We went to we came into the association of devotees, and that faith was strengthened by hearing from Srila Prabhupada, by chanting and engaging in devotional service. And so we becoming more and more purified, anartha nivritti, until we becoming nishta, steady in our Krishna consciousness. Nobody can convince us otherwise. And if we surrender to the spiritual master, then our progress will be very swift and quick. Fully surrender. Spiritual master has to become our life and soul. That's some big words. Not half committed. And we hear from somewhere else and something else, and then we are committed there and here a bit and there a bit. And no, 100% committed to the spiritual master. Then that bears a particular kind of fruit. So the Nitya Siddha, they never fell into this material world. They're inhabitants of the spiritual world. Just like the Vishnu Dutas who came in front of Achamil. They are residents of Vaikuntha Loka. Nitya Siddhas. Or perhaps they have been coming to Vaikuntha in some other ways, yes. Difficult to say. So these Nitya Siddhas are coming down like the Vishnu Dutas. They came to take Achamil back to the spiritual world. And these Nitya Siddhas came down like Srila Prabhupada to give that mercy, to spread that mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu all over the world. So that's the second category. Sadhana Siddha, ourselves. Nitya Siddha, eternal residents of the spiritual world. And there is a third category, which Srila Prabhupada says that's very special. That's a Kripa Siddha. A moment, I have to drink something. So Kripa Siddha, Kripa means mercy. By somehow or other achieving, getting Krishna's mercy or the mercy of the pure devotee. Srila Prabhupada explains that's very special. Don't depend on that and think I don't have to follow the principles, I don't have to chant Hare Krishna, and I will get that mercy somehow. That We don't take our chances like that. That mercy may come, that mercy may not come. So it's very special. If Krishna wants to give his mercy to a particular individual soul, that soul will come to the highest stage of pure devotional service without even following the regulative principles or chanting regularly, or it will be just elevated just in one swoop to the highest position. That is very, very rare. So for us, it is following the regulations and getting purified. And we spoke many times, Srila Prabhupada says 50 years is more than enough to become completely perfect. So it takes some time. It's a lifetime mission. It's not a quick yoga in a week, become God. No, not like that. So going a little bit further up, such a devotee is fully conscious that Krishna is the eternal Lord. No one can disturb him. The devotee is never disturbed. He's fixed in his Krishna consciousness. All his qualifications of the pure devotee enable him to depend entirely on the Supreme Lord. Fully dependent on Krishna. Like a child is fully dependent on the parents. Srila Prabhupada told us a very nice story which highlights that concept of fully dependent. While he was a young boy, he was traveling in the tram, trolley bus, in Calcutta with his father, and the TT, ticket taker, he came and said to his father, "Tickets, please." So his father showed the ticket and just joking a little bit, but in a stern face, then he said to the young Abai, Srila Prabhupada, "Ticket, please, sir." And then he said, "I don't have a ticket." And then the conductor, the TT, he said, "Well, then without ticket, you cannot travel." And then little Abai said, "But here is my father." So immediately, he's dependent entirely on his father. The father is there, so nothing can he do. Father is with him, ticket taker, ticket or no ticket, it doesn't matter. His father with him, he will sort it out. So this kind of dependency on Krishna we have to develop. Krishna is real. It's not just some abstract concept. Krishna is very real. And Krishna likes that. We're depending on him. Then so many miracles will be manifested. If we're depending on our own endeavors, we make our own arrangements. So how can we ever see or let Krishna make arrangements? Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gītā, for his devotees who fully depending on him in such a way, he provides what they lack and he maintains what they have. So this is a verse very difficult to understand. How can God provide what I'm lacking? I've never seen that. Really? God is providing. How have you starved? Have you starved to death? No. Krishna is providing for the fish in the ocean. The fish are starving in the ocean. Nothing to eat. The elephant in the jungle, he has nothing to eat. There is plenty of green vegetation and trees and this and that, and the fish have plenty of food in the water and the birds in the sky, and we think we have to make our own arrangement. Of course, we have to do our duty. That's different. But we have to entirely depend on Krishna. Like the spiritual master is our life and soul. So we're depending entirely on Krishna. So this mood of dependency, then Krishna is going into action. If we want to see Krishna acting in our life, then that mood of dependency on Krishna. So let's go a little bit more up. That's also a very important concept. He does not endeavor much to achieve something with great difficulty. That is called over-endeavor. There is a Sanskrit word to it. Rituan Prabhuji or Amrita Radha Mataji, you know what's the Sanskrit word for over-endeavor? I don't recall it right now.
That shlok from Upadeshamrita Atyahara. Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pracheshta.
Pracheshta means try, attempts. Well, and I'll just have to check, bro.
Okay,
That's
okay. That is an over-endeavor. So what does it mean? Endeavor, not endeavor to achieve something with great difficulty. If most people, they are really stubborn. They want to achieve something. They're going through so much hardship, so much difficulties against all odds. And that is seen to be very determined in the material world. But as a devotee, we're going through all kind of odds to achieve Krishna. That is different. But not to achieve material blessings, economic development. If it's not meant to come to us, then it is not meant to come. That's the kind of mentality. If something is not meant to happen, then it's not meant to happen. There is a very nice purport in the Bhagavad Gītā where Srila Prabhupada says, we're trying our best. That we have to do. Because we're working for Krishna. We're trying our best. But if the result is not coming, it's not our fault. Right? We shouldn't be attached and discouraged. We're trying our best. But if the result is not coming, sometimes the result is not coming. Even by trying our very best. So that's not our fault. There is some other karmic activities going on why we couldn't achieve what we try to achieve. But if we just beyond that, Amrita Radha Mataji. Yes.
Yeah, Prabhu, it's I got that shloka here from Upadeshamrita where it says Atyahara Prayashascha Prayash. Prayash means over, for mundane things.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Right.
So it's all backed up by shlokas. It's all there in the Shastras. So over endeavor will not help us. It backfires. It achieves the opposite. We become discouraged in the end. So again, here, a devotee does not endeavor much to achieve something with great difficulty. That's what's meant. Therefore, he's always joyful. Not sad. He's trying so hard and then he becomes all morose. There has been some letters I have seen from Srila Prabhupada where he preached to some devotees who become morose. No, Srila Prabhupada didn't want the devotees to become morose, discouraged, because they endeavor for something and it doesn't come about. A pure devotee is completely perfect mystic. He's a perfect mystic. Krishna is known as a perfect mystic. The pure devotee is also known as a perfect mystic because he is fixed in the instructions received from his spiritual master. Again, Guru, our spiritual master, is our life and soul. And he's fixed in the instructions. And the instruction of the spiritual master, they can be received personally, face to face, or they can be received as written instruction. There is no difference. If the instruction is received face to face, or the instruction is a written instruction, as in Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gītā, It's not difference of the instruction. Because the instruction in Bhagavad Gītā was also spoken. And in fact, more so, Srila Prabhupada has spoken in the tape recorder and then it has been transcribed and so on. So the spoken instruction face to face or spoken instruction and then written it down, same thing. No difference. So he's a perfect mystic, a pure devotee, because he is fixed in the instruction from his spiritual masters. And because his senses are controlled, he's determined. Sense control. If our senses are controlled, we can be determined. How is that? How can we be determined if the senses are not controlled? It's impossible to be determined. If the senses are not controlled, then we try to achieve something and then the sense is coming in between and pulling us left and pulling us right. How can we be determined? It's impossible to be determined because the senses are just like wild horses. They're pulling us one direction and another sense pulling us in the other direction. Uncontrolled senses. How can we achieve anything with uncontrolled senses? So, if the senses are controlled, we can be determined to walk on the path of pure devotional service. So therefore, such a pure devotee is not swayed by false argument. Because a pure devotee is also very learned in the Shastra. There are many false arguments. Because no one can lead him from the fixed determination of devotional service. Nishta, we spoke. Fixed, that's a stage to be achieved. Nishta. After Bhajana Kriya Anartha Nivritti, we come to Nishta. Firm, fixture in devotional service. No one in this world can persuade us away from our paths of devotional service. Fixed. Fixed. Nishta means like the lines on a stone, on a rock. Sometimes when we're walking in some parks, there's some rocks. And the rocks has some lines in the rocks. And these lines say they are fixed. You can't wash them away with a bit of water, or they are so fixed, these lines on a rock. Or sometimes the rock has some lines of some quartz inside or something like that. A white line goes through from one end to the other. This is fixed, so our determination has to become fixed, like the lines on a rock. Very fixed. So no false argument, because at this stage, we know all the arguments, and we know all the false arguments also. The word is very learned, very learned. And he knows the right arguments and the false arguments. So nobody can lead him away from his fixed determination of devotional service. And he's fully conscious that Krishna is the eternal Lord. Nobody can disturb him. So we have to become like this. Not like, I have also seen I remember an Indian gentleman, he regularly came to our temple in Sosby Street and so on. And then years later, I spoke to him and asking how he is, and said, "Oh, no, I'm not devotee anymore. I'm a Christian now." Nothing wrong of being Christian, but not what he tried to say, this strict principles in Krishna consciousness. Oh, as a Christian, I don't have to be that strict, and I can engage my senses in sense gratification and maybe even meat eating, I don't know. So And he didn't even recognize Krishna anymore. So a pure devotee is fully Krishna conscious. And that Krishna is his eternal Lord. Nobody can disturb him. Nothing in the world can disturb him. And as said before, these qualifications enable him to entirely depend on the Supreme Lord. There is an interesting point of if some distress is happening, or if a devotee has fallen into difficulties, it doesn't mean a pure devotee or a devotee will never have any difficulties. The Pandavas, they're pure devotees. They had so much difficulties. So many difficulties. There's an interesting story. A new devotee, he was engaged in the kitchen and he cut quite a significant cut on his finger. So later on, when this was bandaged up, he said to Srila Prabhupada, I have taken to Krishna consciousness. How is it possible I cut my finger? And Srila Prabhupada said, you, according to your karma, your head should have been cut off, according to your karma. But because you have taken to Krishna consciousness, Krishna is so kind, he just gave you a little cut on your finger. So we shouldn't think no distress will ever come to us. We will not fall into any difficulty because we are devotees now. No. A devotee's mentality is, a pure devotee's mentality is, and that is a mentality we should cultivate. That is Krishna's mercy upon me. Thanks to my past misdeeds, I should suffer far greater than I'm suffering now. So by Krishna's mercy, I am not getting the full punishment I'm due. I'm just getting a little. The mercy of the Supreme Personality of God. Right? That is a mentality. We're cutting our finger. We should have cut, our head should have been cut off. But Krishna gave us just a little cut on our finger. So a devotee sees that as a mercy of the Lord. I would have deserved much worse. Of course, in the material world, everybody thinks I'm such a good person. I'm such a pious person. I've never done anything wrong in my life. Why I have come into difficulties? How can God put me into difficulties? I'm such a good person. Everybody thinks that they're such good people. But they're not. They're not. It's a very arrogant position. I'm a good person. So why I have fallen into difficulties? No, the devotee's mentality is just opposite. Krishna's mercy. I should have deserved much worse. Therefore, with that mentality, a devotee is always calm, quiet, and patient, even in distressful conditions. Right? If we understand what is happening, we understand Krishna is only giving me a small token. I would have deserved worse. Like we catching the flu or this or that. We don't complain. We're just carrying on with our Krishna consciousness to our best of ability. I should have deserved much worse. A devotee is also always kind to everyone, even his enemy. In the material world, we're always distinguishing friend and enemy, everywhere. But if we advanced in Krishna consciousness, there is no friend and enemy. We are well-wishers of everyone. And if we have achieved this stage of devotional service, we're well-wishers to everyone. We have no enemy. And there's a verse in Bhagavad Gītā, and maybe Rituan and Amritarati Mataji can help me to pinpoint that verse. A devotee is a friend to everyone and everyone is a friend to devotee. Which verse is that? You know what I'm talking about? A friend to...
वो तो कृष्ण still thinking Prabhu.
I cannot...
Was it Paradukha Dukhi? हाँ उसी से रिलेटेड होगा.
No, it doesn't matter. Okay, a devotee is a friend to everyone and everyone is a friend to a devotee. That's because he has no enemy. He's a well-wisher of everyone. He's completely detached from the material enemy-friend concept. Or as we have spoken on, I think on Saturday, if in the material conception, if something good happens to someone, we become envious. And so in this regard here, devotee has no enemy. He's a well-wisher of everyone. Nirmama. It means the devotee does not attach much importance to the peace and trouble pertaining to the body, because he knows perfectly well that he is not the material body. The body always has trouble. We cannot avoid that. There will be always trouble. There's the three kinds of miseries we know very well. Adhyatmika, Admitbhautika, Adidevika. Trouble caused by the devas controlling the rain, the heat. Last summer, last year, it was 40 degrees. So hot, we never ever have experienced that in this country. In India, perhaps, yes. 40 degrees, just sitting there, not being able to do anything. Or cold. Now we are winter, it's cold. It may become even colder. So there's so many. Adidevika, Adibhautika, Adhyatmika. So even distress from our own mind. Our own mind causes us so many distress. So much distress. Mental distress. So this cannot be avoided. But a devotee is always calm and quiet. Patient also, patient. Despite many distressful conditions. So we will tolerate. We know we are not the body. So the body is just like a machine. So many things will happen to that machine. And that machine will break down eventually completely. So we'll keep peace of mind even if that machine breaks down completely, finished. And in that consciousness, we go back home to Godhead. The devotee does not identify with the body, therefore he is freed from the conception of false ego. False ego means I am the doer, I am the enjoyer, which all, of course, pertains to the body, to the senses. So if we don't identify with the body, there is no question of false ego. So what we identify with, we're going full circle here, as we started tonight. What we identifying is we are the observer. We are the soul. We are set identity which can observe our mind. We can look at our mind. Please do try that. It's not very difficult to just understand that what can observe the mind. That is me. That is a real me. That is a soul. We can perceive the soul. It shouldn't be too difficult to observe the mind. When the body is laying in the bed, inactive, and the mind is very active, let's look at the mind. Oh, he comes up with this thought. So many thoughts is generating. So many emotions is generating the mind. So many things constantly bringing up something. Restless mind is bringing up millions of thoughts. We can look back. That's freedom. That is freedom. Everybody wants to be free, but nobody knows how to become free. Because if we identify with the mind and the mind says, do this, do that, we'll have to do. And then we say, oh, I have to do this, I have to do that. Now I have to, whatever it is. We have to do. But it's a dictate of the mind. If we can distinguish between the mind and ourselves, and we understand this lesson, and we don't forget this lesson. It's very easy when we're laying down in the evening to look at the mind. But in the daytime, we forget again. I'll have to do this, I have to do that. That's my duty and this. But if we can regularly practice to look at the mind, we can then also look at the mind in the daytime while the body is active. We can look. And that is freedom. Why is that freedom? Because if the mind says, do this, enjoy this, do that, then if we are the observer and we are conscious that this is a mind, then we can say yes or no. We can accept the mind's proposal to enjoy, to do something in a particular way, to even enjoy the thoughts of sense gratification, even the thoughts of sense gratification. So if we know this is just a mind, and we can sanction, it's just like having a child. The child will say, Daddy, I want this, Daddy, I want that, I want this, I want that. And then we say, we don't say, yes, 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 whatever. Daddy, I want a knife. Yes, yes, okay. No, we discriminate. Certain things, yes. Other things, no. We make the decision what the child wants, what is good for the child and what not. So the same with the mind. We decide. We can decide because we are the observer. We in the third position. We are observing what the mind is coming up with. We can say, yes, you can have this. No, that will not be good. We say yes or we say no. But if we identify with the mind, there is no question of freedom. We'll have to do it. Because we say, I want this now. I want this now. So these are very subtle concepts, which is very much Krishna conscious. And there the false ego comes in. The false ego means ego is always there. Without ego, we are dead. Ego is always there. But either it is a false ego or it is a true ego. So false ego is identifying with the body. So true ego is identifying with that observer, with the soul. We identify, we're learning from this little exercise in the evening, at night. We are that observer. I can observe my mind. Okay, I have observed my mind. That I, that's me. That's me. That's a real me. Signs of self-realization. What is a self? That is a self. That observer. That's me. So we may kind of not really believe it, but we practice that a little bit, and then we become more and more fixed. That is me. That's a real ego. Then we invest in that real ego. It becomes very clear, day and night, who we really are. We are self-realized day and night. What it means, the science of self-realization. That's the science. How to realize who we really are. We are that observer. And we are conscious of that we are eternal servant of Krishna. We are not the mind, we are not the body. We are not the servant of the senses. That's in an ignorant state. So that is false ego, and that's real and true ego. So we need to come to that point that we, of course, it's easy to, at particular time, we are understanding our true ego, and then we forget again. We are in touch with the soul, because let's not forget, if we are in touch with that observer, and we understand, that's me actually. So that's real. Then we are also in touch with Krishna. The self and the super self. They have the same qualities. The Krishna is there in the heart. He's also an observer. The two observers, Krishna and I. I'm observing my mind. Krishna is observing my mind and everything. What's the difference? Krishna is an observer in everybody's body, in every living entity. I'm the observer in this, that body I'm right now in. That's the difference. But we are Satchit Ananda. Krishna is Satchit Ananda. Eternal. Full of happiness. Full of knowledge. We have that same quality. But he is a super soul. We are the soul, he is a super soul. There is in the Upanishads, there's a nice example. Two birds sitting in the tree. One is Krishna, one is me. So, two birds. The bird, which is me, he is trying to enjoy the fruits of the tree. Meaning, we are trying to enjoy our senses. We are trying to fulfill our lusty desires. We have forgotten that we are just the observer. And Krishna is just observing. He's never get entangled. Krishna never gets entangled in enjoying the fruits. Because he's Atmarama, he's self-satisfied. Like we said on Saturday. If we want to give Krishna, we want to impress Krishna with our opulences. Everybody has some opulence, everybody has some beauty, everybody has some strength, everybody has some riches, everybody has some sorts of renunciation, and so on. We have these opulences, and we think we can impress Krishna with our opulences. We can't. He has all these same opulences in 100% full. Bhagavan, that's what it means, Bhagavan. 100% full, these opulences. We have maybe 10%, and there are some very famous people. That's another opulence, fame. They're very famous people. They're usually quite arrogant. It goes gone to their head. Krishna is also fame, but a famous person is maybe famous to 20% in this material world, while everybody else is only 2%. So they think we are more famous than anybody else. But Krishna is 100% fame. And not only in this little material earth planet, all over the universe. In every universe. Krishna is the most famous. So we cannot impress Krishna with our fame, our renunciation, our knowledge, and our beauty. He has it all, 100%. So how can we, like, you want to impress a millionaire with £100, or even £1,000, or even £10,000? You can't, because he's a millionaire. He has it all. What to speak of a few pennies? We can't. The only thing we can impress Krishna or attract Krishna is our pure devotion, fully surrendered to his devotional service. Then, like here, becoming pure devotees, and suddenly we're becoming very dear to Krishna. Very dear. That is how we impress Krishna, not with our opulences. So, real ego, we don't identify with the body. Therefore, he is freed from the conception of false ego and equipoised both in happiness and distress, is tolerant, satisfied with whatever comes by the grace of the Lord. That's important. We are satisfied. Whatever Krishna has arranged for us, we are satisfied. It may be little, it may be a lot. If it's a lot, we are not over the moon. And whatever, yeah, Krishna has given that, so let me use it in his service. Or Krishna has not given, that's also okay. Krishna gives or not gives. It's entirely up to him. I'm his eternal servant, whatever. I'm not complaining. Oh, he has not given me enough. Someone else got more. Well, we have our own karma. So these are just some points. Let's go a little bit more. There's a tiny bit more in the purport. This verse speaks about the transcendental qualities of a pure devotee, never disturbed in any circumstances, not envious of anyone. How can we be envious of everyone? We have Krishna. We have the most valuable thing. So we also, a devotee is not impressed by someone who is very famous, very rich, very renounced, and so on, by someone who has his opulence. How can we be impressed by anyone with his opulence? The whole world is impressed. Elon Musk, Mr. Bezos, Amazon, rich people, the whole world speaks about them. They're all impressed because they all want to be like these rich people. We are not impressed by Bezos or Elon Musk. How we impressed her? We have the most valuable thing, Krishna. So we are not envious. Nor does a devotee become his enemy's enemy. Someone may be enemy to us, but we are not enemy to them. Why? How? What mentality? Who is thinking? A devotee thinks one is acting as my enemy due to my past misdeeds. Right? Karma. So it is better to suffer than to protest. Something bad happens to us, why should we protest? This has come and it will go. Okay. And looking at the verse, one who is not envious, but who is a kind friend to all living entities, equally minded, who does not think himself a proprietor. Nothing belongs to us. Who is free from false ego and equal both in happiness and distress. as we have explained, as Srila Prabhupada has explained in the purport. Happiness or distress, equal. We are equal. Not by happiness we are overjoyous and distressed, we are depressed. No. Always satisfied. And the devotee engages in devotional service with determination. Mind and intelligence are in agreement with Krishna. Intelligence also in agreement with Krishna, aligned with Krishna, because we know who we are. So Krishna says, he is very dear to me. Not just dear. There's a succession of verses where Krishna says such and such a devotee is dear, is dear. Now he says he's very dear. And later on is saying he is the most dearest to me here. We'll come to that later on. The one who is bridging this Krishna consciousness, who is helping others to become Krishna conscious. He is the most dear to me. There will never be anyone more dear to me. So that is a top stage. But we want to be dear to Krishna. Krishna loves us. But Krishna loves us if we adopt by practice these qualities which we just have gone through one by one. If we can mold our lives to encompass these qualities, then we become dear to Krishna. That's, we can please Krishna. Everything is about to please Krishna, to make Krishna happy, so to speak. Then that's a perfection of our life. Then we'll become happy. Hare Krishna. Any questions? Any comments? Amit, what do you say? Does that make sense?
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, it makes sense. Yes.
Amrita Rati Rituan. Any comments? Any questions?
No, Prabhu, this everything is fine. I don't have any explanation for it.
Let's see if I find that verse. I shall really look friend to everyone. It's actually a verse, not a purport. No. Anyway, if you find that by Saturday, anyone, let me know. So I think we stop here. And if I find it, I'll text it to you. Right? So we stop here and we'll see you on Saturday. Right?
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Jai Padma.